Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so good to be with all of you today. It is Tuesday, May 11th, and another busy broadcast week, like a fire hose in my face every day. And March 11th. And I know it's like that for all of you as well. You look fantastic. Everyone is chiming in on the live chat right here on Rumble. We're live on Rumble, live on Twitter, live on Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Patriot TV, and X America Live. We're also broadcasting on every podcast platform you can ever imagine, thanks to our partners over at Radcast, reaching millions upon millions of eyes and ears every single month, which is unbelievable. And we've done it all independently with all of you. I can't believe that we've been able to grow this show outside of any of the major networks without any major donors. It's just you and me, this audience growing. And wow, we're growing a lot. So thank you to all of you for supporting the growth of this show. And if you want to support, please go to our independent website, theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com right now, and sign up for the daily e-newsletter. We're very happy to be platformed in so many places, but you never know when the algorithms are going to get you or they're going to pull the rug out from underneath you. And as you know, this show has been deplatformed many, many times. And so we like to make sure that we are connected with all of you all the time. And that email list is the best way to do it. You'll get one email from me a day. It talks about what we're going to do on the show that day, gives you all the show links, my top news stories of the day, and other vital information. And most importantly, keeps us connected. So if you haven't signed up for the daily SJ email blast, please do that today, theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com. We are so thankful to be sponsored by amazing advertisers. Colonial Metals Group is sponsoring the show today. You're going to hear from them. Of course, we want to give a big Shannon Joy welcome to one of our new sponsors, All Family Pharmacy, family-owned business out of the great state of Florida, and they are taking care of so many thousands of Americans, making sure they have the pharmaceutical products and the medicines that they need at all times. You can buy in bulk with All Family Pharmacy. They have great prices, and they have a 10% off discount for the Shannon Joy audience. And you're going to meet them actually next week. We're going to invite some of the primaries into the Joy Virtual Studio. Amazing company. Be ready before you need it. Stock up right now and protect your family. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/joy. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/joy, and use that promo code JOY10 for 10% off. You're going to be hearing from some of our other sponsors today on the Shannon Joy Show. And please make sure that we patronize them, right? It keeps this little train chugging along, the independent Shannon Joy Show. You guys look fantastic on the live chat today. And as you can see in the headline for today's show, Trump attacking Tom Massie. There's one original gangster you don't want to go after. And I think that Trump may have made a big mistake in going after Tom Massie, who came out the only sane voice in Washington, D.C., voting against a disastrous debt and deficit, boondoggle budget that is being pushed by Trump and all of the rhinos, completely erasing everything that Doge has done over the past 45 days. It's absolutely insane. Can fiscal sanity survive the debt bombs incoming? And we are live today with Pickaxe founder and tech CEO Jeff Dornick to talk about a lot of the news of the day. America is hopelessly stuck in the middle between two insane political factions. And they really seem to hate us. If it isn't the Biden administration, it's the Trump administration continuing so many of the insane policies of the Biden administration. And we're going to see this again with this disastrous debt and deficit budget. Yesterday, Donald Trump vowed to destroy Tom Massie, running a primary opponent against him in the great state of Kentucky. He's the lone wolf, the Kentucky representative in Congress, arguably the last bastion of constitutional common sense and basic fiscal sanity. And of course, this will pave the way for Biden style debt and deficit spending, which will continue the destruction of free markets, small businesses, and the middle class. They want everything and they're going for it. What are we even doing anymore at this point? Right? Why do we even have elections when they're only going to do the same thing as the previous administration and just wrap it up in the different rhetoric of the different parties? How can so called fiscal conservatives stand behind this? It's an absolute joke. The news cycle at this point is moving faster and faster. And I was talking with Daniel Horowitz earlier this morning that, making sense out of the news cycle is like trying to grasp sand. It's moving so fast, it makes no sense. By the way, Daniel Horowitz is going to be with us not next week, but the week after in the Joy Virtual Studio to talk about some of these important elements. The headlines, the storylines, the commentary from social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook seem more manipulated every single day. And it's becoming very obvious that they serve the corrupt and destructive uniparty. In the same way that mainstream leftist news media serves the uniparty and conservative media serves the uniparty, we're seeing that now these free speech platforms are not so free speech. And as we know, Elon Musk coined the term freedom of speech, but not of reach. They can suppress, and they are suppressing. They're also elevating the voices and the pundits and the influencers that will toe the uniparty line. We need to emancipate at this point and take back town square where there is true free speech. And this is why tech CEO Jeff Dornick, who is joining us today on the Shannon Joy Show, is such an important voice for freedom and free speech. He has founded an alternative platform for free speech, not manipulated by deceptive algorithms, to deliver free speech and organic reach. Jeff Dornick, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you for filling in for me when I was on vacation just a couple of weeks ago. The audience loved you. They loved Karen Kingston. It was a great discussion that you had. And I'm really thrilled to be collaborating with you. By the way, guys, Pickaxe is sponsoring the Summit for Truth and Wellness, helping us cover some of those expenses to bring in all of our amazing guests. And he will be joining us on the guest panel to discuss the technocracy, censorship, and the economy. So, Jeff, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you.
No, thanks for having me on. And the thing, and I'll say this just to preface everything, is like I feel like you and I historically we've not always agreed on everything. And like if somebody was to look at us on social media, they'd be like, oh my gosh, they're butting heads.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoy every single time we have a conversation, and there's never any hard feelings. And I'm like, that's kind of what we need right now. Let's actually duke this out and figure out what's going on.
Right. Well, everything just seems so fake.
Yeah.
It's so fake. And there are so many Bizarro Con Inc. newcomers who have the benefit of algorithmic, right, help from people like Elon Musk on Twitter and on Facebook. And it just feels like everything is manipulated. And that manipulation is pretty sophisticated. And I want to talk to you about that first. By the way, Jeff Dornick is the host of the Jeff Dornick Show. You can follow him on Twitter. His handle is at Jeff Dornick, but you should probably go over to Pickaxe because that's where all the cool kids are going. As I move from Facebook and Twitter to Substack and Pickaxe, that's really where I'm going to be going in the next few months because I'm just so sick of those algorithms. Elon Musk said it this way: freedom of speech, not of reach. And I think that's becoming evident to so many people as Twitter becomes more and more political. It is towing the party line for, the Trump administration, MAGA, and the Trump agenda. And so let's start with true free speech on these social media platforms. How pervasive is, I have thought for some time that the algorithmic promotion or suppression is incredibly sophisticated. And it is utilized, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it really controls the funnel of information to people. And it really controls how we think about politics and the news of the day. And it's highly deceptive. right? So, you are a tech CEO. You're building a platform that is built on organic speech and or organic town square type of discourse.
Hey everyone, Naomi Wolf here. How are you doing with your New Year's resolutions? January is here. My start was pretty easy. My resolution was to focus on my well being, and we all know that the foundation of well being is a good night's sleep. So, if I could do just one thing to improve my sleep and overall well being, it is taking the number one mineral for sleep, which also helps me personally on so many levels. Yes, I am talking about magnesium. Actually, I am talking about the Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. It's 7 different forms of magnesium in this supplement, which are involved in over 600 different biochemical reactions in the body. Pretty much every function in your body is upgraded when you do take magnesium, from the quality of your sleep for your brain function, metabolism, to your stress levels. And even if your 2025 resolution is not to focus on your health, as mine is, how are you really going to be able to achieve all your goals without quality sleep and stress management support? It's hard to do that. So please do yourself a favor and make Magnesium Breakthrough part of your daily routine this year so you can get the vitality that you need to conquer your dreams. Go to byoptimizers.com/daily clout now and enter promo code daily clout to get 10% off of any order. And if you subscribe, not only will you get amazing discounts and free gifts, you will make sure that your monthly supply is guaranteed. Again, that's byoptimizers.com/daily clout, promo code daily clout. Take care.
What do you make of Facebook and Twitter and all of these major platforms? How pervasive and how manipulated are they really from your perspective?
They're insanely manipulated from so many different levels, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, especially because obviously the last several years we dealt with a lot of censorship, especially dealing with COVID and the COVID jabs and all that kind of stuff, to where we're like, oh yeah, they're manipulating based upon our political ideology, or they're attacking conservatives. Well, the reality of it is, yes, they are, but also what they're doing is they are trying to manipulate you culturally, socially, dealing with religion. They're trying to manipulate you for their advertisers. They're trying to manipulate you politically. Basically, any way that they can manipulate you, they are. And the real interesting thing about this is that I think a lot of times we think of censorship in the way that we've been trained as they kick you off a platform, which is censorship. But also the other problem that we have, that's like overt censorship. But when we're dealing with subversive censorship, that's what we're dealing with today. That's where they're manipulating our news feed. They're getting us to self-censor. So like if you look at like what Elon is doing, like you said, they literally have in their policies the policy of freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, which means you're allowed to say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean that they have to allow anybody to actually see it. And,
Mm,
and so, I always give this example, and I may have done it when I guest hosted for you, where it's like Elon set up a stage in the middle of New York Times Square with a microphone and speakers and a sound system, and the whole deal is like, I'm gonna have a free speech event. You can get up there, you can say whatever you want without censorship. I'm not gonna stop you from talking. You get up there, you start talking to the microphone, and he either mutes your microphone altogether, or he just turns it way down to where only like 3 or 4 people can actually hear what you're saying. That's
mm,
not free speech. Like
mm.
you're able to say what you want, but nobody can hear it. If you go back to the way our founding fathers set everything up, it was you had freedom of speech and you had freedom of the press. That wasn't Fox News and CNN's constitutional right. That's your individual right. So you have freedom of speech. You can go down to your local town square. You can say whatever you want without restriction from the government. Or the freedom of the press is you could go down to your local printing press. You could write out your grievances on a pamphlet. They can print it, and you can go down to your local town square and you can distribute that freely without restriction.
Right.
The equivalent of what Elon is doing would be as it would be saying, okay, so you hold this particular position, you can print 20 pamphlets, but if you hold this position, you can print 100. Now, is
Ah,
that actually free speech or free press? No, it's not, but that's what they're doing.
yeah, and they're using not only, and you nailed it, in the suppression, but also in the promotion, right? So it was Benny Johnson that pushed out the Trump Truth Social post yesterday, bashing Tom Massie for standing up for fiscal sanity. And Benny Johnson is one of those bizarro con, that's the term that I coined to describe these out of nowhere conservative media influencers like Mario Knopfel and Benny Johnson and Brendan Dilley and these just non-conservative, very non-Christian in some ways, voices that came out of nowhere. And the only reason they really have a platform is because they're getting this algorithmic promotion from areas like Truth Social or Twitter or even here on Rumble. What do you make of that promotion? Benny Johnson, by the way, getting somewhat ratioed after going after Tom Massie, which we'll talk about in a moment. But what do you make of this new crop of so-called conservatives? A lot of them have never seen an Andrew Tate or Tate Pimp video that they haven't loved, right? They're promoting these, absolute degenerates. What do you make of this crop of highly promoted, bizarro conservative platformers that seem to be dominating all of conservative thought and media these days?
Yeah, well, the first thing I just want to say is that like they're not actually conservative, and that to me is the key. Is that conservatism used to mean something at one point, and it means absolutely nothing. Now it's seen as interchangeable with the Republican Party, and nobody sees the difference between conservatism and republicanism when there's a drastic difference. With conservatism, we're conserving the Constitution. We're conserving our constitutional rights. We're conserving the way that our founding fathers established this country, where we have individual liberty that is given to us by God that cannot be taken away by the government. That is the whole point of conservatism. But then when you go over and look at these other guys, you look at what they're saying, like that's not conservative. Like you look at this continuing resolution. That's not conservative by any definition. And I posted on Pickaxe yesterday. I was like, the only conservative that we have in Congress is Thomas Massie. And I know we've got Rand Paul in the Senate that said that he's not voting for this thing. And when you actually look at this, how is anybody's voting record actually conservative? Donald Trump is not a conservative. So when we look at guys like, and some of these guys I know personally, I like them, but you've got like guys like Nick Sorter, you've got Benny Johnson, you've got all these guys, Gunther Eagleman. I like a lot of these guys personally, but they've been propped up on platforms like X and Truth Social and all of that because they toe the MAGA line. The MAGA line is not conservative, and I voted for Trump 3 times. I wish that he would have run instead of Mitt Romney back in 2012, but I backed Trump when he first ran in 2016 because he was saying a lot of the things that a lot of us had been wishing politicians would talk about. But I don't think anybody can actually say that Donald Trump is conservative. He's he's a populist. He's in the Republican Party and he's created his own brand of republicanism. That's what Elon is promoting on his platform with X. Same thing with Rumble. I mean, look at some of the top people. I mean, obviously they've got Don Jr., Dave Rubin is a part owner of Rumble, and so with Freedom First Network, which is the network that I launched several years ago, we used to get 30, 50, 100,000 views on Rumble. And then all of a sudden, because we weren't found within that little bubble, all of a sudden they pushed us to the side, brought on all these big name A-list, so-called conservatives that are coming on
Right.
the platform. Now we weren't able to break 1,000 views a lot of times, even though we had built it up 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 views, but they had to push Don Jr. They had to push Benny Johnson and Ben Shapiro and all these pseudo conservatives. But I don't think anybody actually understands what it means to be conservative anymore, and that's a major problem.
Well, it is. And if you look at the trajectory of the party and the movement over the past 10 years, conservatism has been essentially gutted. This is just the latest. And, I don't even consider myself really a conservative or a Republican anymore. I became independent about 10 years ago. I'm a blank no party here in New York State. And, I'm seeing in terms of watching the culture, I know that in our little ecosystem of conservatism or on the right, we seem to think that like you can't go against Donald Trump because you'll get smashed down by the MAGA cult, the bots and the trolls. They'll hammer you. And so a lot of us, not myself, but a lot of us have been conditioned to not talk about these things because it really impacts your bottom line. It impacts your views if you're operating in that ecosystem. But what I think a lot of what a lot of actual, moderate conservatives, like normal people, right? Just basically normal people have realized is that outside of the two-party, uniparty political system, there are millions upon millions upon millions of normal Americans who used to be Republicans and used to be Democrats and are looking at these two parties and saying, they're insane. They're crazy. There is nothing normal or sane or fiscally responsible about these budgets. There is nothing sane about Con Inc., conservatives, and Donald Trump and his administration defending and supporting accused child predators and sex traffickers in Romania with the Tate brothers. Like that's insane. Like they've lost their damn minds, Jeff Dornick. And so do you think there's a place for, I do. I've had a hell of a time trying to convince my favorite conservative talkers and even the medical freedom community that there is a world outside of the two parties and especially outside of MAGA, which is crazy. Okay. But do you think that there is a moment that we are approaching in this country where we can just bust out of this two-party system, the uniparty, and really begin to talk to normal Americans about things that matter to them? Because I'm looking at this economy right now. Stock market is in the tank. We're looking at some serious economic downturns. It's impacting the average American family, the middle class, small businesses, our free markets, and it's a disaster. But it seems like both parties are hell bent on just driving this country into the ground.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like that's why we call it the uniparty. It's two sides of the same coin. And the dirty secret in Washington D.C. and I learned this a long time ago is that all these guys, they'll come out on the camera and they'll hate each other, they'll fight with each other, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, they will both do the exact same thing. So like right now, we've had this continuing resolution being pushed. It's happened under previous Republican presidencies, Democrat presidencies, now Republican. How many continuing resolutions do we have to have? Democrats are opposing it now, Republicans are supporting it now. It used to be vice versa.
That's right.
And you're just looking at this and you're like, both parties are pushing this stuff. They're just kicking the can down the road and moving along. And that's the problem with all of this. I think, to come back to your point, when I jumped ship from Trump and I went over and endorsed Kennedy and I was pretty close with the Kennedy campaign and all that, I think one of the things that RFK Jr. and Nicole Shanahan really tapped into with their campaign specifically was talking about the issues that the everyday American was concerned about. And I think that's why they were probably the most successful third party, campaign.
Right.
And I think they would have been a lot more successful without the lawfare that the Democrat Party threw at them and the censorship and the whole deal. But it's really interesting because talking to a lot of friends, Democrats and Republicans, if they thought that Kennedy had a shot of winning the election, a lot of them would have left either party to go vote for them because everybody's sick of the two-party system. But
Right.
everybody's been conditioned that only a Republican or a Democrat can win, and voting third party is throwing your vote away. I think that we're approaching the point, and maybe we're at the point right now, but if we can have another credible candidate run third party, I think that there could be a scenario where you could see a third party victory. I've been very encouraging to Nicole Shanahan to run for governor out here in California, but I don't want her running as a Republican. I want her running as an independent because when we had the recall of Gavin Newsom last time, I knew a lot of Democrats that were going to vote to recall Gavin Newsom because they were sick of the lockdowns, they were sick of his hypocrisy, they were sick of the homeless problem out here, the high taxes, the craziness, and a lot of them were going to vote to recall Gavin Newsom until they saw Larry Elder would replace him, and then everybody got terrified because he was seen as Donald Trump personified. And they're like, we don't want Trump running the state of California. And so what ended up happening is a lot of those people that would have left the Democrat Party and Gavin Newsom fled right back to him because they were terrified of Trump leading the state of California. But if you had a legitimate independent, maybe a lot of those people would have left, and we could actually have a true unity party as opposed to the pseudo unity party that we see with the Republicans right now.
I think that would be a step forward, but I will say I had a long conversation with Daniel Horowitz this morning about everything that's going on. And, I said to him, I would love to see us elevate discourse and elevate solutions in this country outside of not only the two-party political system, but also electoral politics, right? Like, this country is not a democracy. We don't need to hinge the future of this nation, whether or not we can buy eggs, put food on the table, or, our ability to not get jabbed up by, coercive or forced vaccinations every time they get their panties in a bunch over the bird flu or the avian flu or whatever it is. Like, we should not be held hostage by electoral systems, especially a democratic one. And so we were talking really about the culture. I'm like, Daniel, because he's saying to me, well, it'd be great to do this and that, but they just have such a stranglehold on the electoral system. Like, you have to be a Democrat or you have to be a Republican, or you can't win if you say this thing or that thing or the other thing. And I'm like, I don't know if we can ever win in elections anymore because I don't trust them. The algorithms, the manipulations, Peter Thiel and Cambridge Analytica, and how they were able to manipulate the perception of so many voters, and then the fact that so many of our voting machines are electronic. We don't really have a control on whether or not they are accurately even counting votes. Like, I would love to see the culture just throw them off and begin to make decisions on their own, build up our parallel institutions, refuse to comply with anything that is unconstitutional, stop paying your taxes, stop listening to the politicians. I mean, all of the things. I'm kind of a like, let's throw everything but the kitchen sink at them, because this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And I think that a lot of times we look at politics as we have to use politics to fix all of our problems. And in all reality, we need politics, and we need the government to get out of our way because they're the ones
Yes.
causing the problems. And that's really what we should be fighting for. And I think, to kind of speak to your point of why we're not able to truly win elections. So yes, there is definitely the algorithm game. You're dealing with big tech and the censorship and all that. You're dealing with the elections. Out here in California, we actually had legalized printed home ballots. In the state of California, you print on printer paper, and then you submit it. You turn the printer paper in, and then somebody then converts it to the proper ballot, and then they throw away the original. Like, that doesn't seem shady at all out here in California. So there's definitely shenanigans,
Yes.
but also, I can't tell you, whenever I endorse somebody for running for Congress or Senate or whatever it is, it's because of their policies. It's not because I think they can win or not win. I could care less. I'm looking at who most aligns with my belief system. But the problem is talking to all of them, they always end up getting isolated because they're not willing to sell out to the Republican Party. And the only way
Mhm.
you can truly win these, even primaries, unless you have a super big personality, is with funding and backing from your local Republican Party and local GOP. So what we need to do is we need to figure out how can we have our own financial institutions in some way to be able to take on the system. Because
Yeah.
what ends up happening is we have all these phenomenal people. They'll run for Congress, they'll run for Senate, and they've got great points. They take on the system, but they have no way to overcome all the hurdles that the established parties will throw at them. We saw what they did to RFK with all the insane lawsuits that they kept throwing him. They will do this in every single state to every individual person that runs for office if they're
That's
going
right.
to challenge the system and not sell out. So if they're not going to take the money from the GOP, they're going to need money from somewhere. And so if we could figure out some way to unify this movement of people that I think have all been divided off, and everybody, if we're divided off, they can pick us off one by one. But if we unify, they can't do that anymore because they pick off one person. You've still got the rest of the entire movement that's backing them. And I think that that's where we have to figure out the solution as a movement, as we could call ourselves a party, whatever it is you want to do. But we've got to have
Right.
some kind of infrastructure to take on the system, and we just don't have that right now.
Well, I think we're getting close, though. Jeff Dornick is the founder CEO of Pickaxe. It is a new solution for free speech. I want to encourage everyone to head over to pickaxe.com and check out. This is likely going to be the platform that I move from when I exit Twitter, which is very close. I find Elon Musk to be one of the most dangerous men on the planet in terms of what he is doing. We're going to talk about the technocracy and AI and all of those manipulations in the next segment with Jeff Dornick, who is an expert on that. But, I do believe that we are at a moment. I talk to so many regular people now, Jeff, that these are regular people. These are normies. And for the first time in my life, I mean, I've always been normal. I don't think I've ever been fringe. I love Jesus. I'm a conservative. I voted Republican for, the first 15 years of my life, but I've never been like a radical right wing kind of lunatic on a lot of issues. But people would call me that because, I supported Republicans for a time until I got smart and realized that they were, two sides of the same coin. But I do think that there are more and more regular people who are realizing that these two parties work together. These two parties essentially do the same things. They pass the same bills, they fund the same initiatives, they wrap it up in different rhetoric that they throw to their base to make them think that, this is good for them. But it's all, expanding the size and the scope of the federal government and of the control grid and the control system. And right now with Doge, we're seeing the media cycle celebrating all of these wins. They're cutting this, they're cutting that. They've never really cut anything, even with all of the executive orders. What we're finding now is that the Supreme Court is taking it apart, and also the budgets that Trump is now championing is also going to take apart those cuts, and we're not going to get anywhere near what we thought from these government cuts. But what we are getting is a consolidation of power as they fire humans and get rid of the old mechanisms of bureaucracy and government. They are streamlining them. They are deferring and moving them into AI, and they're beginning to the process, I think, of moving massive billion-dollar, potentially trillion-dollar contracts over to Silicon Valley and the tech bros. It's no wonder that Elon Musk was predicted as many as 6 months ago of being a trillionaire in the next couple years. Why do you think that is? Maybe there's something they know that we don't know. When we come back, we're going to continue this discussion with Jeff Dornick. He is the founder, CEO of Pickaxe. I want to encourage you guys to go to pickaxe.com, learn about what they're doing. We're going to go to break. We'll be back to talk about Elon Musk, AI, tech surveillance, the technocracy. Jeff is an expert in this, and we are going to look at the dangers of this expansion. This is even outside of the two-party political system in just a minute right here on the Shannon Joy Show.
Trump is fully in the process of draining the swamp, but the uncertainty for many is, will he expose the entire pandemic? There is enough public evidence for folks to be concerned who injected themselves in this experiment. If you were forced to get the shot to work, travel, or maybe you just trusted the system back then, check out this natural solution formulated by Dr. Peter McCullough in collaboration with the Wellness Company. And they just leveled up their original detox formula for $30 less. Introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, conveniently consolidated into one capsule, with 4 times more nattokinase, 500 milligrams of bromelain, and 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. Nattokinase, an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects, may work to break down spike proteins. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. Crafted with 100% natural ingredients, Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research, offering effective support for your cell's natural repair and recovery. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all. Head to dailycloudhealth.com and use code DailyCloud to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's dailycloudhealth.com and use code DailyCloud to get 10% off. Get back to that pre-COVID feeling.
The human commodity is far more valuable to them than silver or gold or land or water. They want us convinced that nothing we do matters, but it does. You are going to be armed with truth. and you are going to be armed with everything that you need to go out and claim authority on this topic.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. We are so thankful for our friends over at All Family Pharmacy and also our friends over at Native Path. As you guys know, Native Path products are some of my very favorite. I've been using their collagen for quite some time. And right now, this is the best deal, I think, in the country on high quality collagen that dissolves so easily in any drink. It's perfect in your coffee. I use it every single morning, and you guys know the benefits of collagen. It's a unique protein that they provide. It's naturally designed to boost bone strength, to help with joint pain, and of course, of the beauty benefits of collagen. It minimizes wrinkles and cellulite. It also enhances your hair follicle thickness and also reverses nail damage. And I was just telling Annie and Jeff before we started the show that an old timer just recently told me that I looked like I was 35 years old. Now, this guy was really old, so I think anyone under 60 probably looks 35 years old to him, but he was so sweet, and I really appreciated it as a gal who's approaching 50, right? So I'm going to be celebrating my 48th birthday in June. Not so happy about that. And so collagen is so, so important. It is a critical part of my daily routine to put back that collagen that slows down as you begin to age. So 45% off. That's 45% off. Again, I think it's the best deal in the entire country for Native Path collagen right now. That's as many as 3 jars for free. And that's only if you go to getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. That is getnativepathcollagen.com/joy, where you can stock up 6-month supply, 12-month supply. I don't think you're going to see a deal like this from any other company for quite some time. So I'm really thrilled that we got to bring it to you guys. And I negotiated that for you guys on your behalf. They came to me and they said, what do you think? Maybe 10% off. And I said, no, that's not good enough for the Joy audience. The Joy audience needs a really great deal. And they were pretty amazing. So 45% off. It's a wonderful product. Like I said, I've been using it for well over a year and I love it. Thank you to our friends over at Native Path Collagen. Okay, Jeff Dornick is with us in the Joy Virtual Studio today. He is a very, very valued guest host for the Shannon Joy Show. He's joining us on March 29th at the Summit for Truth and Wellness. We are so pumped to welcome you to Rochester, New York. Jeff, it's going to be such an amazing collaboration of amazing people live in a room, a beautiful, beautiful state-of-the-art auditorium at Bethel Christian Fellowship. And you're going to be on the panel for finance and technocracy, which we're expanding out from the wellness aspect. So we have a health and wellness panel. But as we move to this bizarre and strange transhumanist technocracy in the 21st century that is being pimped by Elon Musk and Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and all of these kind of dystopian organizations, there's a real threat that transhumanism, AI, can really impact the human. mRNA technology, something that we've been just raging against, Jeff, as part of the medical freedom community, is very important. I'd love for you to get your thoughts on, that big topic, Elon, AI, technocracy, and your thoughts on how this is going to be not only dangerous to our constitutional republic and privacy and our God-given foundational, rights, but also our bodies and our health.
Yeah, well, it contributes in so many different ways. Because I mean, obviously, there's the health component, there's the governmental component, there's the spiritual component as well. Because especially once, and everybody always, Jeff, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, whatever it is. But the more that I look at all of this, the trajectory that they're heading is, in my opinion, completely demonic. So when you look at the worldview of a lot of these guys that are in Silicon Valley, Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, all of that, none of them have a biblical worldview for
Right.
sure. I can promise you that. But also, a lot of it. There is some pretty dark stuff as well. They want to combine human biology with technology. And when you think about this from a Christian perspective, this is the first time since Genesis 6 that human biology has been combined with anything non-human. Going all the way back to when you had the blending together of the fallen angels with human beings and in creating the Nephilim. And so from Noah's flood all the way up until now, you've basically been dealing with 100% human biology until now. Now, the interesting thing is that the more that you look at quantum computing, and that's where I'm very nervous about where we're heading right now when it comes to transhumanism and all of that. Because right now, when you're looking at these chatbots, Chat GPT,
You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path collagen. So, Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it's pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your experience of transformation today.
and all of that. Okay, cool. It's going to take away some jobs. It's taking away some of our, critical thinking skills and all of that. It's plagiarizing people for sure, but it's basically just a computer program. But when you start getting into quantum computing, that's when I think that you combine that with AI. That's when we're talking about more of the spiritual stuff. That's when you're talking about demonic forces. Because I always say Hollywood's always conditioning you with what they're going to be bringing, right? You look at the Marvel movies, you look at any time that Hollywood talks about quantum, it always is opening up a portal to otherworldly beings. If you look at the quantum realm in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's opening up portals. You see this in Ant-Man, you see this in Doctor Strange, you see this in the Avengers, to where now they have access to spiritual beings, otherworldly beings, other dimensions, all of that. So if you apply that to this, and again, I could dive into all the scientific side of all this as well. But when you look at that, if that's true, and quantum computing is actually opening up, let's say, a portal or access to demonic, thoughts.
That's what I would. Yeah, that's what I would consider it demonic. Yeah.
Now, if you get that brain chip that Elon Musk wants to put in everybody's brain, and he talks about that's going to bring about super intelligence. So what are you accessing? You're accessing basically demonic intelligence. So if it goes as planned, this is where you start talking about massive demonic possession. And again, everybody's gonna be like, Jeff, you sound crazy. The book of Revelation says if you take the mark of the beast, there is no coming back from that. Why? Because maybe if you're getting these brain chips implanted into your brain, maybe you physically can't, because Elon has already said they'll have the ability to erase your memories, replace them with new ones. If they're connected to demonic intelligence through quantum computing, quantum portals, whatever it is, now all of a sudden you're talking about demonic possession. Can you really come out of that at a certain point without some insane spiritual, revelation or intervention or something like that? So this is very dangerous. And when you look at guys like Elon and Larry Ellison and Sam Altman, they're messing with stuff that I don't even know if they fully understand. They may be full on into the demonic stuff, or they
Right.
could just be messing with something and they have no idea what they're actually dealing with.
Yeah, it is quite concerning. And Elon Musk was on record saying that, welcoming in AI is welcoming the beast. He even used that terminology. So you would assume that these players understand, in at least in some way, what they are dealing with here. I tend to think that their technology is much, much clunkier than they would like us to believe, and much lower tech than they would like us to believe. But you're right. I do believe that this, the quantum physics and the discussion about opening of portals, the brain chips, the transhumanism, and we're not talking about technology used for people with a prosthetic leg or something like that. I do firmly believe that there is a place for technology. As humans, we need to decide how technology helps us and aids us in being human, as opposed to the things that we don't want: mass for surveillance and transhumanism and humanism in terms of connecting to a grid or a server for mass control. I mean, there are also concerns about surveillance, and so this is all kind of, from my perspective. And if you listen to people like Catherine Austin Fitts, this getting rid of Doge, kind of cutting government, is not cutting government. It's cutting humans. It's getting humans out of the business of government and moving in private contractors, massive banker-backed gazillionaire contractors, a lot of them in the tech industry, to come in and take the mechanism of government and mechanize it, through AI and through their software systems or their platforms. It's cloud computing, so it is the sucking up of every bit of human intelligence they can possibly get. Jeff, they're even talking with Stargate about building football field size data processing centers, and them being so large and so powerful in the collection of human data. So that could be through drone surveillance, of your physical reality, even surveillance in the body, right? So, bots in your body collecting information about your body, feeding it into the server, everything about your finances, your movements, your thoughts, your dreams, your hopes, your fears, everything now being fed into these servers, to the point where they need nuclear reactors hooked up to the football field, which is what Donald Trump talked about, right? So even beyond, the demonic is pretty bad. I don't want to be demon possessed. I don't think anyone else does either. But just the mechanism of AI and mass surveillance and what they're trying to do should frighten people, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, now think about this too, and a lot of people, I don't think have fully thought through this. So when they announced Stargate, I remember thinking, I'm like, okay, this sounds a little weird. Day number 2 of Trump's presidency, they're gonna do this with all these guys that worked against Trump to keep him out of office. Now all of a sudden,
Right.
it's lining up for them.
Right. Crazy.
But I was like, a thought entered my mind, and so I went and I did a deep dive into the history of Stargate.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize Stargate was a CIA program, and this was happening decades ago. Okay, so Larry Ellison, as a lot of us know, he's deeply tied with the CIA. His first client with his company was the CIA. The CIA basically put him on the map. Okay, so you go back, research Stargate.
Okay.
Now, this is what Stargate did. Stargate was this. Did you see the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats?
No.
With George Clooney.
Never.
Okay. So
Random movie. Yeah, I love
so,
the men who stare at ghosts. That's I look that stuff up on a daily basis.
Exactly. Okay, so it's a movie with George Clooney, and it's
Okay.
kind of a comedy, whatever, but it's a true story. Okay.
Okay.
So this is about the Stargate program that the CIA did. So it was
Wow.
remote viewing. So what they were doing is they were working with humans to do remote viewing sessions, so that way they could spy on people without actually having to spy in the room. Okay, and this is actually a practice that's practiced among a lot of Eastern religions and things like that. So the CIA was like, can we weaponize this for our own benefits? That way we can have spies. We can see what's going on in this other country. We sit in on these meetings that these world leaders are having without even having to bug the room or anything like that, right?
Oh
So
my
they would
gosh.
do it. So now they announce, okay, with Trump, We're doing this Stargate program with OpenAI and Microsoft and Larry Ellison and Oracle. What are they actually talking about doing? They're talking about using mRNA technology
Yeah.
combined with artificial intelligence. They're doing remote viewing, except instead of human beings, they're doing it with AI. Because what they're going to do is they're hooking up the mRNA nanobots that are going to be in your bloodstream and in your body through Wi-Fi and 5G back to artificial intelligence to be able to see what's your DNA structure, what's your genetics, all
Oh
that
my,
kind of stuff. How do you think that they're going to be able to tell the difference between your regular DNA from your cancer DNA with what they were talking about with combating cancer? It's going to be through this technology. So they're
unbelievable.
going to have the ability to do remote viewing through artificial intelligence through this Stargate program. This is just basically go all the way back to Operation Paperclip when you're talking about the Nazi scientists that came over that were deep into the occult. That progressed along to Operation Stargate under the CIA, and that's what they're implementing now. This is insane when you actually look at the history of it.
That is absolutely insane. And so Elon Musk and the tech bros are going to know you have cancer before you know you have cancer, right? Because that's how they're pitching this. They're pimping it, saying, "Oh, well, this mRNA technology is going to be moderate, or it's going to be monitoring your vital functions in your body, and so we're going to know. We're going to be able to catch cancer early because we'll have access and we'll be surveilling what's going on in your body." It's crazy.
But not only that, they'll be able to know what's going on in your body, but then they'll have the nanobots that will be in your body that will fix your genetics inside of your body
People are not.
after it compares and contrasts. So they always do everything under the guise of cancer. Go back to the beginning of
Wow.
mRNA, that was done under the guise of cancer research.
That's
So
right.
all the millions and billions of dollars that we raised for cancer research was all going to developing this technology. So now they're doing it again when it comes to Stargate, right? So obviously, it's always a
Rat
guide when they
bastards.
talk about cancer. But what else can they do? What else do they have access to? Are they going to have access to your mind? Can they restructure your mind with nanobots? Can they restructure anything? Can they change your perception? Because as we all know, the way that you think and the way that you respond to things is by chemical reaction. So if your body has a particular chemical reaction to something, all of a sudden now you will behave in a particular way. Will they have access to that as well? We don't know what they have access to, but if they're doing AI, they're eventually going to sync it up with quantum computing, and they're going to have access 24/7, 365 days a year to the innards of your body and your genetic code. What are they going to be able to do with that? I'm sorry, but I think we need to shut this thing down.
Yeah, and this is why many, 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 many years ago, Jeff Dornick, I labeled them mega maniacal control freak lunatics, like with major God complexes. These are mad scientists with God complex, and they really, I mean, they could care less if they kill a few trillion people. They just don't care. But like they don't care. They're not they not like us. Let's just say that, okay? To quote whatever that rapper's name was. They are not living in the same universe that regular people are living. And I think that CJP Rumble has summed it up on the live chat with F this crap. I am with you, CJP Rumble. Like we don't want this. We don't want that. This idea that, and you know what really ticks me off, Jeff? I did a documentary a little over a year ago called Kill Shot. And we went back to 1963 prior to the assassination of JFK and what was going on with Lee Harvey Oswald in New Orleans as they were conducting gain of function, very crude, very early gain of function research in New Orleans as a way to weaponize cancer as part of the Cold War. And they did it. They weaponized cancer. They created, and this is through the SV40. This is now what has contaminated the mRNA vaccines. It has contaminated so many of our other, vaccines, even the childhood vaccines in the schedule. So to your point, like everything is about curing cancer, when I think a very, very convincing case could be made that it was the government that created the cancer in the first place through their research in the 1960s. So this is just like, oh my gosh, Groundhog Day political hell with these political parties and these politicians and these lunatics like Elon Musk. And here we are, Jeff, we're going to go to break in a minute, but here we are as conservative Christians and Republicans, right? Lapping it up, like buying it hook, line, and sinker, because Trump is pimping it and Hannity is pimping it and Fox News is pimping it and Dan Bongino and all of the platform conservatives. You can't get a word in edgewise through them. They're just like shoving this at people, and they're just, okay, like taking it, just like the jabs. I cannot even get over it. It's awful.
Yeah. No, and again, this is the problem when you start dealing with looking at politics and looking at life, American life, through the guise of a team sport. And,
Right.
and that's the way our founding fathers never intended for this to be. George Washington warned against the two-party system. You go
Yep.
back, our founding fathers warned against it, and it's because of this kind of mentality. And I posted, I think it was last night, about this whole Massey Trump thing and all of that. And it was really interesting because I'm like, I'm fully endorsing Thomas Massie in his next congressional reelection, and essentially screw Trump for doing this, and opposing him and all that. Trump's totally in the wrong, the whole deal. The response that I got from MAGA Inc. was, Thomas Massie, he's a never Trumper, he's this,
Ugh.
he's that. It's always these personal pejoratives, right? It's not, there's no policy debate or anything. And this goes back to me, before I got into politics, I was dealing with like theology and apologetics. And so my first show, I was interviewing pastors and theologians and diving into all of that. And what's crazy is that I got into a debate with Dr. James White over interfaith dialogues, which I totally opposed, where you're putting Christianity and Islam on the same playing field and acting as if both are equally true and debatable. And let's discuss, we both worship the same God, but it's slightly different. I totally oppose that, right? But what was interesting was that instead of let's debate this on the merits, guys like James White, guys like Phil Johnson and John MacArthur's henchmen and all that kind of stuff, they went after me on a personal level to discredit me, as opposed to saying, well, Jeff, you're wrong because this passage says this, 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 and this, and you misinterpreted this. Instead, it was these personal attacks. The same thing is happening with Donald Trump. And I wrote a chapter in my first book called Social Injustice, about the cult of personality. And the Apostle Paul wrote against this. And we're seeing this with Elon Musk. We're seeing this with Donald Trump. We're seeing this where it's like you cannot disagree with them. You cannot oppose them. You cannot criticize them, or else you are seen as a traitor. And I'm like, but what if they're wrong? They're not God. They're not perfect. Even if they're right, the majority of the time, they're going to be wrong. And Donald Trump is dead wrong on this issue. And Elon Musk is dead wrong on all these issues that we're talking about today. We need to be able to discuss and debate, but you can't have that discussion with cultists. And so it's just, it's crazy when you start looking at it from that perspective. What's the difference between this cult of personality of Donald Trump and Scientology? There's not one.
There isn't. And I think that the entire country is in a lot of ways being dragged into these cults of personality. And so there's an element of this within the Democratic Party, and especially with Barack Obama throughout his presidency, not so much with Joe Biden, because it was very, very clear that we had a Weekend at Bernie's presidency. They just propped the poor guy up and rolled with it. It became very clear to a lot of Americans that there's someone else running this country. I would say it's the exact same with Donald Trump in a different way. I don't think that Donald Trump is in control of things any more than Joe Biden was. He'd like to be, but I think that he is the puppet. But in this country today, the powers are so entrenched in Hollywood, academia, media, left-wing news media and right-wing news media, and they are so desperate to keep us in these factions, to keep us all divided. And you can play ball, but only if you play ball with the two factions, right? And this is one of the reasons why this show, I mean, I've been doing this, Jeff, for 12 years now. I was completely blackballed from the Republican Party and conservative media very early in my career because I criticized Trump. In fact, I criticized Trump and called him a Democrat from the day he came down the escalator. And I haven't stepped the metal off the pedal since on that. And so that forced me kind of out of Con Inc. But certainly the mainstream news media, left-wing news media, was never going to take up this type of discourse that we provide on this show every day. And so we've really been in the wilderness for 12 years, trying to position ourselves according to principle, as a Christian. But I don't think that everyone should share my faith. but, position, ourselves outside of these two-party political factions, and it's been impossible. But I think we are very, very close. There are signals that the culture is moving, and the culture is moving fast. We saw it early on with COVID-19 and the 35 to 40% of Americans who refused the mRNA technologies despite an outrageous amount of coercion and propaganda. We saw it with the rejection of Bud Light when they went down the pushing transgenderism path. We saw it with the rejection of Target in, when they started pushing that as well. And now we're seeing it. I think it's very interesting in terms of Bitcoin. They've really been pimping and pushing Bitcoin and crypto and the movement for away from the physical dollar, the currency, into this new tokenized digital currency that will certainly be the new global currency. And of course, the only way you'll be able to buy or sell will be if you have that mark of the beast that you talked about, Jeff Dornick. But this rejection, I mean, we're watching Bitcoin tank. The market is having a lot of problems. And I think that's an indication that regular people just aren't buying it. And so this creates a huge opportunity. I want to talk about that opportunity with Jeff Dornick when we come back on the Shannon Joy Show, because that's where I want to look at, like, the future. Like, where can we go? I don't accept this whole idea that we're going to move into the technocracy and Elon Musk has to be like the de facto, I don't know, king of the world or god of the world. And we all have to be like AI driven nanobots, transhumanists. Like, I don't buy it. I don't buy that their technology is good enough. I don't buy that they can convince all of us to do it. And they might convince some people to do it. That will be very unfortunate for those people, because it's going to mess their bodies up in the same way the COVID jabs and the mRNA technology has messed their bodies up to this point. And so I don't think they're nearly as powerful as a lot of people think they are. We just hand them that power. I want to talk with Jeff about that when we come back in the final segment of the Shannon Joy Show. Keep it tuned right here. We'll be back in a minute.
Hey, parents, I have an early Christmas and holiday gift for you. We've all been there. 1 minute, your child is bouncing off the walls, perfectly healthy, and an hour later, this child is very sick. You feel helpless, and it can turn your plans upside down, especially on vacation. After thousands of customer requests, the wellness company has just launched the Kids Emergency Medical Kit. You no longer have to deal with emergency illnesses in a panic. Now you can have 6 critical medications at your fingertips to treat 20 plus illnesses for issues children have, such as strep throat, ear infections, lice, and respiratory illnesses. You can avoid urgent care and hospitals. The Kids Emergency Kit has been hand-selected by the wellness company's medical board and includes chewable amoxicillin, dissolvable ivermectin, and an optional EpiPen and more. This also includes a detailed guidebook guiding you step by step in emergencies. Ordering this kit is simple. Only parents can order for their children. Fill out an intake form and you will get a verification call for consent. Then it's delivered to your door. Don't wait till you're in the middle of a crisis and avoid late night urgent care runs. Order your kids' emergency kit today and remove panic from your life. And if 1 or 2 of the prescriptions run out, there's a replenishment option to restock only what you need. Go to dailyclouthealth.com and grab your kids' emergency kit right now. Use code DailyClout to save up to $40 at checkout. These kits are only available in the USA. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. And as you all know, I do negotiate with all of my sponsors on behalf of all of you. So not only do you get 10% off your entire order at sat123.com/joy, they will also give you, when you sign up for a satellite phone plan, they will give you a free phone. So you get the free satellite phone, and you also get a free bulletproof Faraday backpack. This is the same backpack that I sent with my son Jack down to college. It is bulletproof. It will also protect your devices, so your laptop, your phone, from an EMP attack, and also will protect you from the EMF that is emitted out of your devices. It is a huge value. and it is just for the Joy audience. Like, that's it. So you have to go to sat123.com/joy. That's sat123.com/joy. Use the promo code JOY and you will get the free bulletproof Faraday backpack, also a free phone when you sign up for 1 year of satellite services. And so we're just thrilled to bring these great offers to you. And Tina Blanco is amazing. She's the founder, CEO of Satellite Phone Store. I absolutely love her. She's going to be back in the studio next week, and we're going to be unpacking her go bag. And oh my gosh, this go bag has everything you could ever need. We're going to go through it one by one and really talk about prepping and being prepared and all of the things that people need to think about when the lights go off, or there is some type of natural disaster, or even a man-made, politician-made disaster, which is, more likely what would happen. So thank you to Satellite Phone Store. Jeff Dornick is back with us again in the Joy Virtual Studio. He's the founder and CEO of Pickaxe, the new platform that uses technology to build up human voices instead of using humans to feed AI, transhumanism, and the technocracy, which is, I think, the balance that we need to be in, right? We're not Luddites, Jeff Dornick. We're not saying that we all have to become Amish, though I do think the Amish might actually be onto something. I think they might have, we're all like, okay, that's a kind of weird the way they live, but like at this point, I'm thinking the Mennonites and the Amish might be onto something. But thank you for building Pickaxe, and I can't wait to join everyone over there and really challenge these platforms, Elon Musk and Twitter, because I don't want to give him any of my money, any of my information, any of my time, any of my human, like certified 100% organic right here. Never thought I would have to say that in 2021, but you're really building up this infrastructure for people to escape, and I appreciate that. What do you see in terms of pushback, fight back? I mean, parallel institutions is one way to do it, and you are doing that with Pickaxe. But where else are you seeing opportunities for us to reclaim humanity and defeat these bastards? Because that's the point, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many opportunities. You look at basically any industry, and it's sorely lacking in our worldview, and so like that's the way that I'm looking at, like, even just building out Pickaxe. Not to get like super self promotional or whatever it is, but like what
Go
I'm
for
trying
it.
to what I'm trying to do is you kind of build this central hub and then align with other companies, other entities, and if nobody else is going to do it, maybe I've got to build it. But creating an alternative and a true parallel economy, a system, whatever it is, basically to be able to facilitate us living the way that we all just want to, which is basically just leave us alone. Okay,
Right.
let us have our voice, let us have our opinions, let us go about our day and hang out with the people that we want to hang out with and work with the people that we want to work with without being compelled to do anything or inject ourselves with anything or ingest something that we don't want to ingest or breathe in something that's being sprayed into the air that we don't want to be breathing in. Like, we just want to live. Can we just live as human beings? Like, it shouldn't be that complicated. And I think that's where it's like you look at any industry. Like, I just spent the last week, I was at the Natural Products Expo out here in Anaheim. 100,000 people coming together,
Wow.
for to it's like a trade show dealing with like all the natural products, organic food, all the stuff you'd see in like Whole Foods and like all that. But even in there, it's supposed to be like the health community, right? Like, they're talking about lab grown meat. They're talking about mRNA technology to protect the chickens and all the. And I'm just sitting here and I'm like, are you guys insane? And so every single industry, I would argue, whether you're talking about food, banking, technology, anything, needs people, but we don't just need little silo companies off by themselves. We need you build a company, create a solution, and let's link arms and let's work together. Because again, like I've said earlier, if we're just off by ourselves as a solo individual person, they can pick you off. But if you are linking arms with a bunch of people, they take out one person, you still have the entire group that has your back. And
Right.
they cannot take you out in that way. And so that's where we need to figure out, come up with a solution, and then how do I join with other people? Stop viewing everybody as competition and start viewing everybody as, okay, let's collaborate, let's work together, let's figure out how do we come together. You use your skill, I'll use my skill, and here's the solution to this.
Yeah, and I think that there is a growing number of Americans and even citizens worldwide that see where the powers that be are taking us right now. Like, they've gone and lost their damn minds. Okay. God complex. They are mad scientists, and they truly believe they can create a utopia as long as they own everything. They just need all the control, guys. That's all they need. They need to own all the land, all the water, all the people. They need to have access to our bodies at any time. We are the herd. They can cull us if they want. Like, just look at the way they treat chickens and cattle and imagine that that's what they would envision for humanity in the 21st century. And, we can't be dumb enough to fall for this. Okay. And I think more and more Americans are finding this out. I do have a question on the live chat. So Mark the Reagan wants to know, what is your main theme? Jeff and pickaxes. Maybe I didn't, you have a daily show, don't you? Do you do daily or?
I used to do a daily show, and then since dealing with pickaxe, it's basically whenever I want to actually talk to somebody. So
Okay.
I'm much more selective. But like honestly, like my main theme is like I want to bring back nuanced conversation in like because I think that's what's missing right now. It's everything's a team sport, and like if you go onto Twitter, everybody's just throwing fire bombs. Let's do something to catch the algorithm and get controversy and all. And I'm
Right.
like, let's bring back long form content, okay? You can write an article on pickaxe. I'm eventually going to make it to where you can reply to an article with another article and have it kind of like all linked together to where you can kind of see differing of views and opposing points and all of that. But I want to bring back true freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And it's okay if you have this crazy, wacky idea. I've got crazy, wacky ideas that I'm sure I'm going to be talking about, on Pickaxe as well, that I can't really talk about on other platforms. But it's like, like I want to explore different conspiracy theories. A lot of people think I'm nuts. I'm a believer that Bigfoot is real, and I've got a lot of documented evidence in the family. I could
Okay.
dive. I could dive into all that. I could dive into
Oh,
all that kind
dude.
of stuff and how the government has covered it up. And I know it because I'm married into basically Bigfoot royalty. My wife's great uncle is the one who coined the term Bigfoot and got the
Wow.
first
Okay.
plastered footprint of Bigfoot. So
Great.
all these things you start talking about on these other social media platforms, you can't discuss. They'll shut it down. They'll downplay it in the algorithms. And we can't have these fun conversations, debate conspiracy theories, debate these controversial issues without somebody stepping in, whether it's the intelligence agencies or tech or whatever. So it's like, can we just create a space that's truly a digital town square? That's what Elon pitched us, but it's nothing of the sort on X. That's what all these other alternative social media platforms pitched us. Truth Social was one of them. They promised us freedom of speech. You guys can talk about whatever you want, and then they go in contract with the Silicon Valley AI company to do all the content moderation, which resulted in Dr. Tenpenny getting kicked off of Truth Social for a while until a lot of us caused a big ruckus, and I kind of led that charge on that one. And so when you start looking at this, you're like, nobody's actually doing this right. And
Mm.
so like I went to all the CEOs of all the different tech companies that I knew, Getter, Clout Hub, all of them, and I pitched them on like what I was talking about, and none of them wanted to do that. They all do content moderation, they all do censorship, they all do that. And so I'm like, okay, got to go get an investor, got to build something.
Yeah.
Can we bring back this kind of conversation?
So what is it that is different about Pickaxe in terms of the algorithm? I mean, clearly you're going to have to moderate in some ways. You can't have child pornography or death threats or illegal activity and that type of thing. What is it that what would make it truly, from your estimation, because you've researched this, what would make it truly a free town square type of platform where both Democrats and Republicans or agnostics when it comes to politics or independents can come in and have a free, robust discourse without the bots and the trolls? Like, a lot of them will say, well, we have to, moderate because we get bots and trolls and stuff. Like, what is it that you have built into Pickaxe that you think is going to work in this case?
Well, the biggest thing is getting rid of the algorithms. Like obviously, we ban all illegal content, obviously. But then also we do ban all sex, nudity, pornography, because I always say, like, if you're going into your local town square and you have sex in the middle of town square, they're going to arrest you and put you in prison. So why
True.
are we going to allow it on our platform? So that's
Great
like
point.
the one legal activity I guess you could argue that we ban on the platform, right? But the key thing though for us is that we don't use algorithms for your newsfeed. If you follow somebody, you're going to have equal access to them and every other person that you follow. So we're kind of going old school MySpace OG Twitter days where it's
Okay.
chronological, but then as there's engagement on the post, it'll get bumped back up to the top of your newsfeed. So whatever is getting the most most engagement or the most comments, if there's discussion and debate happening, you're most likely to be seeing that, right?
Okay.
But what's basically when it comes to like the bots and the trolls, the key with that one is having a true verification process, which is what we have. And so if you're an unverified account, you can still use the platform, you can follow people, you can engage, you can post, you can do all that kind of stuff, but you're never going to trend, and you're
Mm,
never going to be recommended in our recommended profiles section. And
got
so
it.
then that way, you're not going to be able to have anonymous troll accounts be able to hijack the system and push news stories and have it showing up in the trending tab like you do on X and all that kind of stuff. Because guess what? Our intelligence agencies are using that to push propaganda on us and manipulate our way of thinking. Like the CIA, NSA, all these intelligence agencies, they run anonymous troll farms where
Mm,
they're pushing propaganda to manipulate us to push particular issues, especially in the MAGA crowd. I've said this for a long time, pisses a lot of people off in a lot of my circles, but Q was one of those things where they would
oh, totally. Yeah.
they would use anonymous troll farms in order to push all that propaganda, make it go viral and the whole deal. So they're not going to be able to do that on our platform because only verified accounts will have an opportunity to be seen. So if you see an account, it's got the blue check mark right next to it, you know that's a real human being. You know
Right.
that that's not just a bot troll farm, our intelligence agencies trying to mess with you. Whereas about
Right.
85% of the accounts on X and all these other social media platforms are run by these troll accounts. Now, the one other thing I want to get to really quick as well is Meta is investing $65 billion to develop artificial intelligence right now.
Oh
And
God.
but what their goal is to replace human content creators with AI generated content creators. And there's all these articles about this. I've talked to people that have said it, that have sat in the shareholder meetings, and the reason why is because they don't have to pay out revenue share to creators, so they're going to save money. Then they can control the Overton window of what's being discussed because they control the creators, right? The fastest growing Instagram account right now is an AI generated content creator right
That's
now, the
crazy.
fastest growing on Instagram. And so when you look at this, they're going to do this on a mass scale, cut out the
Right.
human content creators, and then they're going to be able to influence you. They're never going to piss off their advertisers because they're never going to say anything controversial that they're going to have to censor or ban or anything like that. So when you start looking at this, you're like, okay, so where's the space for the human beings? Where are we going to talk? Where does our voice matter? Because all they care about is them controlling everything. Let's bring it back to the people. So that's really going to be the main difference between us and all the big tech platforms.
Well, Jeff, I think that it's actually a very elegant presentation, right? The simplicity of your plan, you aren't really reinventing the speech wheel. It is real humans saying real things that are legal in a town square situation. I think it is meta, and the pushing of these AI generated content creators that are really off of the reservation. And I think it's going to be like everything else in AI. It's going to be interesting for a little while and people will kind of get into it. But I think it's only going to attract a very small subset of Americans. And we're going to get bored by it. I can spot AI in a hot second. I'm bored by AI. I had one of my agencies that I work with, a partner. I bought some ads and they sent over a voice. I sent them my script and they sent over the ad, and I'm like, that is not a real person. I'm like, you go back to the drawing board and you find me a real person and you have a real person read that ad, because I can tell the difference. And I think that it gets harder to tell, and they're going to make it more tricky, but you cannot replicate human. You just can't. It is why they desperately, it's the dirty little secret about AI, is that they can't do anything without human genius. This is why they want to hook into our bodies and collect all of this information and constantly use us as a mine for creativity and information, because there's nothing that can be done in AI without the genius human. We are so much more complex and so much more interesting than this AI. It's just a cheap synthetic alternative And it's just, I mentioned before, Jeff, it's crazy that today I have to like tell my audience I am like 100% organic human, that I actually write, like I write my own e-blasts every day, you know, and I, with my own brain and my own fingers, like it's not generated by AI. And I'm not saying that in some cases AI can't help in certain ways. But I really think we're going to have a time of choosing coming forward where people are going to have to be like, do I want to be human or do I want to be synthetic? And as I talk to regular people, again, Democrats and Republicans, overwhelmingly, they are freaked out, weirded out, and creeped out by Elon, the, you know, Meta, the AI, all of it. They're just not buying it. So I think we're in a good spot. And I love what you're saying about pickaxe. I think it could work.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, it was it was interesting because last Saturday I talked to Nicole Shanahan about this very thing. About what do we do for those of us that we don't want to combine with technology, and so that's one of those things, like at a certain point we're gonna have to probably, because we're gonna fall behind if we don't take the technology and get access to this demonic super intelligence. We're gonna fall behind in the jobs market and the economy and all that. So like Nicole and I were talking about, like, are we going to have to be some sort of version of the Amish where we have our own communities that are completely free of AI
Right.
and transhumanism and technology? And so it's like, okay, now let's start building this infrastructure now, because it's coming and we're
Right.
going to fall behind in the current landscape of the economy. So we have to be
See,
prepared for that and know it's going to be difficult.
I don't think we are. I don't think we are going to fall behind. If you look at like what was their first shot at this? The first shot was the mRNA technology, the COVID-19 vaccines. And that was like the beginning of the choosing, right? And there was coercion, manipulation, propaganda. They shoved it down our throat. You can't go to college. You can't go to work. You can't get on a plane if you don't take our technology, right? And who is thriving now today? Like, who is moving ahead today? Not the people who accepted this synthetic mRNA technology into their body. They're not the ones thriving. They are the ones who are sick. They are the ones who are falling behind. They are the ones who can't think for themselves anymore and are suffering tragically. I feel terribly for them. I'm not gloating over this. The people who are moving ahead are, again, the certified 100% organic human people who rejected the poison. So I do agree with you. We are going to we need to have these discussions. We need to push this discussion out into the fore. We might have to set up, legal communities and legal entities to protect ourselves from these psychos, right? But I don't think that in any way, shape, or form, they're going to be ahead of us. And I even see people, I have colleagues that use AI. I'm up against people who are aided and abetted by the algorithms every single day, who use AI every single day, and they have the best technology and they have all the money behind them. And guess what? We're growing, and this program is growing exponentially, right? Over a lot of my competitors right now. And I think it's that human element. So I don't want people to think like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to like isolate ourselves into like this little corner. I think we're going to fight for humanity, and I think humanity is going to win. Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I want to be clear that when I'm saying that we're going to fall behind, we're going to fall behind in the system that
Right.
is run by AI, basically by these Silicon Valley technocrats, and because they're right now, if Doge goes as planned, Elon, it will basically be in charge of everything with
King
his
of the
artificial
world.
intelligence.
Yeah,
Exactly,
king of the
or
world.
King of Mars, either or, whichever you prefer. But we also have to be prepared. The Book of Revelation says that if you don't take the mark of the beast, that you're not going to be able to buy or sell at some point in the future. That will happen, whether it's
Yeah.
in 1 year, 5 years, 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years. We're going to get to that point, and so we have to start thinking. Okay, so what do we do if that comes to play? They kind of did a little test run of that when it came to the COVID jabs, to a certain degree. But it'll be that on steroids when you're actually talking about what's prophesied in the Bible. So we have to be thinking about how do we function in a society, because we have all these people. We've got countless millions and millions, probably billions of people around the world that do not want to converge with technology. So how are we going to function when the governments are
Right.
going to be pushing that and enforcing that? So we're
Right.
going to have to create our own communities and make sure that we have each other's back and are working together and linking arms. But here's the key, and I think this is a really big takeaway from all of this, is the government and the intelligence agencies and big tech and everybody, They only have power as long as we consent to it, as long as we give them the power. And
There we
and
go.
and the key, we're the ones with all the power, not them. We the people. And the evidence of that is the fact that they have to push propaganda. The
Yep.
fact that they have to push propaganda in order to manipulate us into buying into their plan is proof that we're the ones with the power, not them. So stop buying the propaganda, and they no longer have power.
Well, it's so absolutely true, and you see this. We're gonna be hitting the economy later in this program and next week, working on bringing Peter Schiff back into the Joy Virtual Studio next week. I mean, one more example of the people who fell for the synthetic. They went for the synthetic gold, the crypto, and the Bitcoin, and they're crying in their cereal bowls today as we are watching that fall apart as well. So I think that there is so much room for us to fight back and refuse this. And I think most people don't really want it to be got. What do we want to do? Fall in love, get married, have children, plant a garden, build a house, have grandchildren. We want to live, we want to be free. Like, it's not that complicated. They're making it complicated, unnecessarily complicated. And we can fight back. Jeff Dornick is going to be one of the pioneers, I think, in this new movement. Really glad that you're working with Nicole Shanahan and talking to her and moving just outside of this two-party political system, because that's where this is going to need to go. Great discussion, Jeff. We only have a minute left before we have to let you go and end the show. But let me give you, another minute to wrap up and get anything else off your chest that you think you need to let the audience know.
No, yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Shannon, I'm really looking forward to, coming out for the Summit for Truth, coming up at the end of the month. But I highly encourage everybody to go over to pickaxe.com. Right now it's web-based only, social media, completely free speech and freedom of reach. Set up your profile. You can follow Shannon over there. You can follow me. Got a whole bunch of other amazing people that are over there already on the platform. But also just like understand as well, like this is, and I always say, this is the worst that the platform is ever going to be. And I think it's a pretty solid, strong platform as is, if I don't say so myself. But also, like, we're in the process of developing an app. We've got a really cool new email newsletter feature that's going to be rolling out in the next 6 to 8 weeks as well. That's going to be a direct competition to Substack that will actually be far superior to what they're offering as well. So that'll be built into the platform. We're working on integrating Rumble even further into the platform, making it as if Rumble is native within Pickaxe. So we're doing all
Cool.
these really cool, interesting things that nobody else is really doing that actually promotes free speech and the right kind of conversation. So go to pickaxe.com and set up.
I think it's a valiant effort, and I think you're going to be very successful in that. Jeff Dornick, thank you, by the way, for being a sponsor of the Summit for Truth and Wellness. It is so welcome, so appreciated. Everything that we earn, all ticket sales, everything that we raise on the day of the event goes straight to Americans for healthcare alternatives. It is a brick and mortar group looking to build a brick and mortar wellness center outside of the medical and hospital system right here in central New York, another parallel institution. And so we just want to bless them and help them in any way we can. So it's going to be a great summit. Summitfortruth.com, summitfortruth.com. Get your tickets right now. We're bringing in people from all over the country. If you are in driving distance of Rochester, New York, I want to meet you. Jeff wants to meet you. Of course, Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, Mary Holland, the president of Children's Health Defense. We have Sasha Latapova, Aaron Day, Jeff Dornick, Paul Stone, the Dr. Naomi Wolf, of course, coming to Rochester, New York. It's going to be an amazing event. And I even have some other speakers up my sleeve. You never know what you're going to get, who I'm working on to come to the summit. So it's just going to be amazing. Summitfortruth.com, summitfortruth.com. Jeff Dornick, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. And Annie, thank you for producing the show. So appreciate all of you. TheShannonJoy.com, TheShannonJoy.com. Sign up for that email newsletter today. We will see you tomorrow right here on The Shannon Joy Show.